Happy Friday, Hokie Nation. As always, we're back with the TSL Friday Q&A. The Hokies, they're doing a lot right now. They just hired new defensive coordinator Sam Siefkes. They're also in the middle of their transfer portal deadline. So I'm Robert Bateman alongside Chris Coleman. Nick Brown's behind the set as always. Chris, you ready to get into it?
Let's do it.
All right, so our first question will start with VTCE 2000. He wants to know, did you see the recent Athletic article that ranked the ACC transfer portal? Virginia Tech was surprisingly ranked lowest, but it appears they were being based on original high school rankings, which seems inaccurate. Well, I know you don't follow other teams. How do you think Virginia Tech actually stacks up against the rest of the ACC?
I think most of these transfer portal rankings, as you can read, are pretty much baloney. Like, you just throw them out. If they're based on mathematical formulas, what formulas are they based on? I actually liked recruiting rankings from back in the day when I felt like there were more people who understood the overall recruiting scene, and then they just ranked the classes based on gut feel rather than some mathematical algorithm. We've seen On3 rank Virginia Tech's transfer portal class second in the ACC. Now we've seen, what was it, the Athletic?
Yeah.
The Athletic ranked Tech's transfer portal class next to last in the ACC. That's a pretty wide gulf. Any transfer portal ranking, though, that uses high school rankings to determine how good the class is going to be faulty. Virginia Tech, I mean, by that standard, Bishal Tootin never would have been a good football player at Virginia Tech because he was unranked coming out of high school, right? Anybody who comes from the FCS level or even lower level FBS, they're not going to rank highly in any sort of ranking like that because they weren't highly ranked recruits out of high school. So I put no stock into that. That is the laziest form of ranking I've ever seen.
So where would you say we stack up?
I would say top half just on paper. Now, some of it so much depends on, we don't know what defensive scheme. I mean, Tech signed a bunch of safeties. How are those safeties going to be used? How are they going to be aligned? Jazari Priester at defensive tackle. Is Virginia Tech going to use him in a two-gap position or a one-gap position? I don't know. So much of it, like from a talent perspective, I think Tech did just fine, but it's how do the pieces fit? It's a jigsaw puzzle.
Now, kind of speaking on the pieces, we've already brought in almost 20 guys. Are there any players that really stand out to you?
I think Remack at offensive guard has to be the one. We'll see if he moves to offensive tackle or stays at left guard. But he was the highest grading off interior lineman in the Big 12 last year. He is a proven player at this level, at a pure institution of Virginia Tech at West Virginia. So I think for him, like, he's the guy that is the sure thing out of all the transfers, where, like, you can point to that guy and say he's going to absolutely be a success, because he was an excellent player at West Virginia. If he turns out to not play well at Virginia Tech, that doesn't make any sense, and it would probably be because of another issue, like a trickle-down effect or something. But he's the sure thing to me amongst this portal class.
The Hokies finally hired a defensive coordinator after a long wait. Sam Siefkes joined TSL yesterday. Check out that podcast on our channel if you want to meet more of them. But, Chris, I want to know, do you think more guys will transfer to the Hokies now that they have a defensive coordinator in place?
Well, I think more people are going to transfer to the Hokies no matter what when the next portal period opens. I think it's going to be, it's not going to be as active as the postseason portal period, but you get through spring ball. The spring ball will sort out some positions on the depth charts. Some players will leave. The coaching staff will have a better understanding, especially on defense, of their personnel and how they want to use them, and they'll know what they need. Like right now, they might not think they need another linebacker, let's say. Maybe after spring practice, they determine, oh, yeah, we need another linebacker. I expect Virginia Tech to be active again in the spring portal period.
And kind of sticking to the coach's point, our next question comes from Hokie Havoc, who wants to know, D2 and D3 coaches, I've been told, are really good coaches, and they can be found at all levels of football. However, there seems to be biases against hiring non-Power 4 coaches. What attributes does a Power 4 coach have that lower level divisions do not? I
think there are some people that put recruiting at the top of their list when looking for an assistant coach. I think you have to strike the right balance. I certainly don't think you can ignore recruiting, but I don't think you should. I think coaching is most important for Virginia Tech. I've always felt that way. Virginia Tech didn't start to recruit consistently well in the state of Virginia until they started winning games. They had to win and make 4 straight bowl games before they started consistently pulling in top 10 players from the state of Virginia. Virginia Tech's success will determine whether Virginia Tech is a good recruiting school or not. And yes, you need some good recruiters on your staff, like Fontel Mines or back in the day, Jim Cavanaugh, Brian Steinspring, people like that. But ultimately, Virginia Tech won't recruit well consistently unless they win. That makes coaching the most important aspect of the staff makeup, in my opinion. I think when you recruit coaches from a lower level, they're unproven as recruiters, and that's why it's a turnoff to certain people. It's not a turnoff to me personally. I mean, he's coached at the Division III level. Well, he's also coached in the NFL, right? If he's good enough for the Arizona Cardinals and the Minnesota Vikings to hire, then is he not good enough for Virginia Tech to hire? I think he brought up interesting perspectives yesterday. He said when he worked at the Division III level, you just don't have that many employees, so all your coaches have to take on different roles. So not only was he a coach, he also did the team laundry, right? And he also had to work for the athletic department, where he had to be the Title IX manager of the entire athletic department. So when you work for these small schools that don't have much money, you have to do multiple jobs. And I think it helps you go into things with an appreciation of the bigger picture. And you're working very hard for a very small amount of money. And I like people who progress from that background. I think there's a drive there that obviously he possesses. Every coach starts out as a GA, even like your really good coaches, that it's not like Bud Foster started out, oh, you're defensive coordinator and making $1 million a year, right? He had to start from the lowest level, but the lowest level of FBS ball. I think those Division II, Division III coaches, they probably have a little bit of different perspective on things because of what's required of those coaches at a lower level.
Well, that'll do it for us. As always, be sure to check out Chris's TSL Friday Q&A article edition on techsideline.com. For Robert Bateman, myself, Chris Coleman, and Nick Brown behind the set, we'll see you guys next Friday.